Welcome to another edition of the Roar the Lions UK podcast. My name is Matthew Turner, flying solo today for what I hope will be the first of a number of these small mini pods that we're looking to do. As if you have listened to the show before, and if you're here, I assume that you have, but if you haven't, welcome, first of all. Our thought is that our podcast is rather long. We can go between 1.5 and 3 hours, depending on what we want to do, because we love chatting Lions, but we know that may put some people off. And so we want to kind of drip feed a little bit for these guys who may not want the really long chats. So I'm looking to aim for about 30 minutes here on a trial basis. We have no idea how this is going to go, so do give me feedback as we go. Love to see what you think. Flying solo today, a little bit earlier. My team, Liverpool, are on later, and I really want to go and see them. I will be back after that game for the Hopium pod. A little mini pod, about 30 minutes, just to get all the Kool-Aid out of my system. I've been chugging it for the last week or so. I'm feeling really, really good about how the season might go. And I don't want to infect the main podcast with that feeling. So I need to get it all out of my system, tell you how good I think Lions possibly could be, and then I can go on the normal podcast with that all out of my system and not look quite so mental. But for now, we're going to talk about what we did yesterday, but very, very briefly, just to update you on what's been happening with us in the past week. We're going to start off with a bit of news. We're going to talk about the UDFAs, then how the rest of the division drafted. We talked about how Detroit drafted last week, and of course during the draft, and please do go back and look at those episodes. And then we'll have a look at a few draft classes in general around the league of interest. So let's just start by talking about our Discord channel. Please do join that. DM me or the Roar the Lions UK Twitter page. We'll give you a link. You can join us there. You can talk to all of the guys that contribute on the podcast, along with another 50 or so guys. Really nice, uplifting Discord channel. Lots of good Lions chat all the way through the year, especially now. College Football Podcast may be back tomorrow as well, so do keep an eye out for that. Please don't forget to like this episode, sub to the channel, sub to the pod, rate us, everything you can do for that. Download the app at Lions Nation Unite as well. We are a part of them. All the hobby podcasters for the Lions you will find are there. Herman Moore's project to bring the best of the Lions to you. We're also a Twitch affiliate. If you can, throw us a Prime sub at any point. If you do have a free one going, we'd be much appreciative. Thank you very much. Let's crack on and talk about the news in the past 7 days. Lions are going to have joint training camp practices with the Colts in Indianapolis ahead of the Week 2 preseason game. This is something I think that's going to really, really help the Lions, actually. So, there's some thought that this just doesn't help and actually ends up disrupting your message. But at the end of the day, the Colts have an absolutely fantastic team. Matt Ryan aside, because I think he's a winner. I think he's, he's been the guy that the MVP was all those years ago, and he's just been failed by an organisation that's now dumped him. So, but the rest of that roster is absolutely banging, and we know that the coaching is up to scratch too. So I think it's only going to help our team on their rise to come up and train against these guys day in and day out for a little while. There's only so much a game actually does, the number of reps you actually have, but on the practice field, I think it's super, super valuable. No primetime games for the Lions this season. They're the only team not to have a primetime game. And although the Thanksgiving game is thought of as primetime, strictly speaking, it's not. And we're the only team in the NFL not to have a primetime game. But what this does mean is that we do not have a preparation disadvantage against anyone this season. So whoever we're playing, we've either had the same number of rest days or more rest days than anyone. And we have the second most rest days net of anyone. So the team in first does have a preparation disadvantage for at least one game, but they have bigger overall. We just should go in pretty refreshed to every single game. So that's really good. The Lions rookie numbers have been released for their free agents. Rookie numbers and free agents. So I'm just loading them up now so I can tell you what they are. Free agent numbers: DJ Chark is 4, Deshaun Elliott is 5, Juju Hughes is 23, Jared Davis 40, Chris Ball 49, and Garrett Griffin 86. And then the rookie numbers: Aiden Hutchinson 97, Jameson Williams 18, Josh Pascal 93, Kirby Joseph 31, James Mitchell 82, Malcolm Rodriguez 44, James Houston 59, and Chase Lucas is 36. The only one or two of note I see here, Jared Davis taking back his old number at number 40, hoping to slot right back in there. I like the power of DJ Chark choosing a single-digit number. Deshaun Elliott as well going out there with a number 5. I don't really read too much into these numbers, but the guys yesterday did highlight Juju Hughes taking number 23. If you take Darius Slay's number, you got to back it up, kids. So we'll be looking out for him. Not Juju Hughes. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. He's the other one, isn't he? Mike Hughes. Mike Hughes, cornerback from the Chiefs. So yeah, it's a big statement. You know the history of the team. If you're coming in here, if you're choosing a number, the least you can do is have a look at who's been that number in the past, and they'll see Okuda and they'll see Slay and think, I've got to do something here. So it's a big statement by him, and let's hope he backs it up. Lions have released outside linebacker Jesse Lemonnier. That's after rookie minicamp, and they've signed in his place a tryout during rookie minicamp. The outside linebacker Natrez Patrick played 2 years with the Rams after going undrafted from Georgia in 2019. So played 2019 and 2020, injured all of 2021, and lands with us. Core special teamer, barely plays on defense, but fast guy, big guy. I think personally that special teams is the way to get on this team at the moment. Actually, it looks quite strong all over the field, I think. And we'll talk more about that on the Hopium pod. But I think that this team's going to be hard to get into if you're a UDFA this year, or if you're someone just being signed off the street. But if you bring special teams upside, I really think that's the best route. And if that is your speciality, I like how that looks there. And it was just to let everyone know, so we were doing an NFL draft predictor. It was open to all, and we weren't that good. Like, once again, second year running, it's really, really hard to predict what's going to happen. But despite 4 Roar of the Lions guys entering and a few others, Mike B from our Discord chat won. So he managed to predict 3 of the top 4 picks accurately. So he saw it all coming, basically. Trayvon Walker, number 1. Aiden Hutchinson, number 2. Sauce Gardner, number 4. And then he also got Evan Neal to the Giants, although he put them at number 5 instead of number 6. But, instead of number 7. But that's close enough. That gets the point. Otherwise, everyone was kind of around like 2 or 3 correct and 1 half correct. It was not pretty, especially further down. But I quite like the fact that I managed to pick Kyrie Elam at 23 and Trent McDuffie at 21. I'm pretty pleased with myself, I'm not going to lie. Let's move it on to the UDFA class for the Detroit Lions. So they've been busy, and they've been kind of cutting players to make the room for these guys so they can all be signed. Quite a few of them, especially on offense. So let's start with running back Greg Bell from San Diego State. Also wide receivers Khalil Pimpleton from Central Michigan, Josh Johnson from Tulsa, and Corey Sutton from Appalachian State. Titans Derek Dees Jr. from San Jose State, and Nolan Given from Southeastern Louisiana. Offensive tackle Obinna Eze from TCU, and guard Kevin Jarvis from Michigan State. And then finally on offense, Zane Obeid from Ferris State. That rounds out the offense. On the defense, only 3 guys. Defensive lineman Demetrius Taylor from Appalachian State as well. And then cornerbacks Jermaine Waller from Virginia Tech, and the nickelback Cedric Boswell from Miami of Ohio. And let's just briefly chat about each of these guys as far as my knowledge goes, which I have to say, compared to Ryan and Ant, if you watch a normal pod, not so good on the college stuff. But I'm trying to bring my knowledge up to speed. Greg Bell, the only running back on this list from San Diego State. He looks like he could have a potential route onto this team. So comes out of San Diego State in the Mountain West Conference. 1,091 yards last year at 4.5 yards per carry. Now, I do know from what the guy said yesterday that San Diego State were an excellent running team. Their offensive line opened massive gaping holes, and so he actually had a fairly easy ride by the sounds of it. But if you have a look at him on tape, he's got really nice burst to him. He's got a low center of gravity, which is really weird because the guy's 6 foot, 200 pounds. So he's not a small running back by any means, but he looks like he can break some tackles in there. I think that that running back 3 position is really up for grabs as well on offense. So you've got Jamar Jefferson, you've got Godwin and Buke, and you've got Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds, great story. The other guys, Jamar Jefferson seemed to score a touchdown with every touch, but can't stay on the field and doesn't play special teams, and Godwin just fumbles the ball for fun. So, Reynolds, I'd love to see him succeed, but at the end of the day, there's not much invested in him. So that running back 3 spot's up for grabs. So we'll see what Greg Bell can do. Moving on to the wide receivers now, you've got Khalil Pimpleton, Josh Johnson, and Corey Sutton. So I'm going to start off at the end of that list with Corey Sutton. He's someone I actually did have a look at earlier on today because I hadn't heard of him before. He had a pretty catastrophic injury, I think, at the end of the 2019 season, and then COVID affected 2020. But the guys played 35 games for Appalachian State, being started in all of them. Never got under 600 yards in a season that actually happened. Always at more than 14.5 yards a catch. And 7 touchdowns was the lowest he'd got in his college career in 2021. So the guy is uber productive in the Sun Belt. He's 6'3", 205 pounds, and he seems to move with grace, with ease. Not a huge amount of burst, but enough top speed to pull away from some of the slower guys. The guy kind of does everything pretty well, and I'm really encouraged by that. So Corey Sutton, for someone that we didn't really mention yesterday, I'm coming away thinking this guy's got a shot. And to be honest, considering what Dan Campbell said about not wanting to carry anyone on this team, I believe that they think all the UDFAs have a chance, because I don't think they'd bring anyone on if they didn't think he had a shot. So Corey Sutton, I think you guys should go and have a look at some of his highlights. He's a big dude, strong looking, well built, but not too big. Only 205 pounds at 6'3", but in proportion, and good amount of burst to him. I think he's got a limited route tree, and so he's got a lot of growing to do, but he was big for App State. Moving on to, I think, what's most people's darling of this, which is Josh Johnson from Tulsa. 5'11", 171, so not the tallest, but not small, but really slight, 171 pounds, small guy, and that really shows up. But 83 catches for 1,114 yards, breakout year for him in the American Conference last year, 13.4 yards per catch and 6 touchdowns. Not much in terms of the running game. He was predominantly a wide receiver in that offense. He's got some exceptional burst. Really good speed, nice route running, he plays much bigger than his 171 pounds. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. But I know that the local guys are really big on Khalil Pimpleton from CMU. So at the MAC, had 3 years as a starter, although obviously the 2020 unit was affected by COVID. The most recent season, 62 catches for 960 yards, 15.5 yards a catch, and 4 touchdowns. But that hides what he did on special teams. At Central Michigan against Western Michigan, he managed to score 3 touchdowns in a matter of minutes, 2 on kick returns and 1 touchdown as well. It was really, really something to watch. So the guy brings something on special teams, and I did say before, I think that is going to be a way that people are going to compete. So do watch out for him. Hey to Dan McGuinness, Dead Fat Man in the chat. I am going to probably not chat too much, just so I can speedily get through this in the time that we're going to allow for this. But thank you very much for joining. If you've got any comments, and I can definitely read them from here, that's all good. Let's move it on to the tight ends, Derek Dees and Nolan Given. So Derek Dees, I think, is the more highly regarded one of these two. Dees, the tight end, 6'4", 235, former receiver at San Jose State, converted to tight end for his college career, 730 yards and 15.5 yards a catch for 4 touchdowns. Josh Johnson, apparently called Sweet Feet Johnson, according to Dead Fan Man, so there we go. So really big performance in the Mountain West Conference for a tight end. 730 yards and 47 catches. He was a feature of that receiving offense, and you can really see his receiving traits out there. But the guy likes to bury people in the run game too. He's only 235 pounds, so he's not as big as the offensive line. He's not even close, so he could stand to maybe put a few more pounds on, but he likes going after an assignment and absolutely doing it in his own blocking scheme. So, the guy absolutely can do it. And with tight end 3 being up for grabs potentially, he's got a shot at this roster. Brock Wright, I don't think, should think it's going to be given to him, and he's certainly going to be behind a draft pick. So, time through up for grabs. Dees has a shot. Nolan Given, we didn't know anything about him yesterday. I've tried to find out as much as I can today. 6'3", 260. So he's smaller in height by an inch, but much bigger in terms of weight. He's spent time at Ball State, SDSU, and then Southeastern Louisiana for this most recent season, and really had a breakout year for Southeastern Louisiana. 56 catches for 572 yards and 6 touchdowns. But on his highlight reel, there's a really pretty touchdown, I think in 2018 for Ball State, against Notre Dame, in Notre Dame. And he is absolutely fantastic route. So about 10 yards to go, first and goal, I think, or something like that. And he's lined up in the slot to the left-hand side, on the short side. And they fake a bubble screen because there's a wide receiver outside him. So they fake a bubble screen. He goes to kind of block the cornerback outside of him, and then fakes that and goes upfield. The safety tries to mirror him, but can't get there. Lovely, lovely catch. And, it's only a very simple thing, but the way he sold it was really, really impressive. So it's all I've seen from him. He has got his own website, so I'm going to go and check that out. Det Fan Man says, I've also recently seen a D's Nuts t-shirt and it's glorious. Hope he performs. I do too, my man. Right, let's start then with the offensive line. Obinna Eze, the tackle from TCU, given one of the higher guarantee contracts of this UDFA class. Tackle's a bit short for the Lions at the moment, especially in terms of depth, so he's got a really big chance to make this roster. He's raw in pass protection, but he buries people in the run game, and if he's coming in as a sixth man, I think that's a way for him to come in, but even more so than Matt Nelson, he is not ready to start as a pass protector, so maybe take him with a pinch of salt. Could see him on the practice squad potentially. Guard Kevin Jarvis, the local guys will know him a bit more than me. We didn't know much about him yesterday. The same goes for Zane Obede, so I won't bore you with not a lot that I don't understand. Let's move on to the defense. Demetrius Taylor, the defensive lineman from Appalachian State. 6'1", 290, had an absolutely fantastic last 3 years in the Sun Belt Conference. He had 44, 40, and 24 tackles, 13, 13, and 10.5 tackles for loss, and 7, 6, and 7 sacks. Uber consistent, uber productive. I know it's only the Sun Belt, but as an interior defensive lineman at 6'1", 290, that's absolutely impressive. He's a absolute mauler. He really, really is. So I think he's got a good shot to make this roster. Not even the practice squad. I think he's got a good shot to make the roster. There's some people out there picking up a paycheck, let's say. So there are some people like, I don't even think it's not they're not trying. It's just they've never shown anything. Jashawn Cornell is definitely one of those guys. But potentially, Michael Brockers could be on the chopping block and we'll need to replace him. I know that we don't get much back for him, but if you think that Levi Onwuzurike is going to hopefully be that starter with Brockers and Pascal in the rotation in the interior, well, actually, you could just lose Brockers and bring someone else in, right? No need to have someone like that in there. So, the only thing he's bringing is experience. But he didn't play well last year, so let's see what happens with that. And then the cornerbacks, Jermaine Waller from Virginia Tech. It was brought to my attention last week that he had an absolutely glorious interception, and he did kind of jointly caught ball. He managed to wrestle free just before it was called a joint catch, which obviously goes in favour of the offense. But good career for Virginia Tech. Didn't play too much in 2020, I assume due to COVID, but 2 years as a starter in 19 and 21. 46 tackles in both. 2.5 and 2 tackles for a loss, 1.5 sacks in 2019, 7 interceptions in those 2 years, which is absolutely fantastic, and 17 passes defended in his college career. So productive, has a nose for the ball, likes to compete. 6'1", 180 is good size for a corner. Maybe needs to put a little bit more weight on, but that's a sort of prototypical sort of measurables that you'd be looking for. He's got a shot to get on this roster. And then finally, Cedric Boswell from Miami of Ohio. 5'11", 181, definitely going to be a nickel at the next level because of his height, height and weight, just kind of a slight guy. Only 1 year really as a starter at Miami. In this most recent year, 61 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss and an interception, and 7 passes defended. Also got a forced fumble in there too, which is really, really good. The nickelback's up for grabs. It really is. AJ Parker performed above expectations, but expectations were super low. So that fact can't be overlooked. AJ Parker ranked as one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL last year. And that was still above his expectation. But when you've got people coming in like Hughes, like Okuda coming back, he might be shoved inside. Will Harris, unfortunately, probably will be a factor inside too. You've got our 7th round pick in Chase Lucas, who's going to primarily be a slot. So there's a lot of guys competing for this, but no obvious winner right now. Hater Lions Rumble flying solo. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. Need to round up what happened yesterday and deliver it to the masses who do not want to put up with a 2-hour podcast. And honestly, I don't blame them. I don't know how you guys do it, because for us, chatting about it is easy, but watching it, I really struggle with. So, love you guys for doing that. That's all of the UDFA class. I think it does cover all the bases. You know, I think there are some guys there all along that actually do have a shot. My sleeper candidate, actually, now having watched him a bit, is Corey Sutton. What he does on tape is really, really intriguing. And we don't have too many X receivers. Corey Sutton, I think, is 6'3", 200 odd pounds, could kind of be that DJ Chark replacement. So interesting to see how that works out. Let's move on to the NFC North draft classes. We'll start off with the Chicago Bears. We've got Kyler Gordon, the cornerback at 39, Jaquan Brisker, the safety at 48, Velus Jones Jr. at the wide receiver at 71, Braxton Jones, the tackle from Southern Utah at 168, Dominic Robinson, the edge at 174, Zach Thomas at 186, Treston Ebner at 203, Doug Kramer at 207, Jatiah Carter at 226, Elijah Hicks at 254, and back-to-back picks, the punter Trenton Gill then going at 255. And when we were talking about this yesterday, we're talking about a team on the way down, a team that's shedded a lot of dead weight, but now really have a low base. And really none of these picks are kind of making them massively better in a sort of game-breaking way. Jaquan Brisker, really good safety, a podcast favourite on this show, but on his own, is he going to be the difference maker? Kyler Gordon was sort of as a bit of a project at the cornerback room. Now 39, he might represent value. People thought he might go in the first round. He was indeed in the green room on draft day 1. Didn't get picked up. But, you know, he's supremely athletic. Can he translate that to production? We will find out. Velus Jones, massively overdrafted at 71. Very quick receiver. Bit of a one-trick pony. 25 years old as a rookie too, so that's going to be interesting. They've drafted quite well on day 3, bringing in quite a lot of offensive linemen and Dominic Robinson on the edge. But the problem is none of these guys are probably any better than the players they already have. They're just depth pieces, and the offensive line was already bad. So it was an okay draft for a good team, or a rebuilding team, but a team on the way down desperately trying to be relevant. It was one of the worst drafts I've seen in a very long time. We'll move on to Green Bay. Quay Walker at 22, Devontae White at 28, Christian Watson at 34, Sean Ryan at 92, Romeo Doubs at 132, Zach Tom at 140, Kingsley Enagbare at 179, Tariq Carpenter at 228, Jonathan Ford at 234, Rasheed Walker at 249, and Samori Toure at 258. A lot of the narrative around the NFL is that this Green Bay draft class was disappointing, that they were one of the losers through the draft weekend, that they didn't do as much as they could have done, that they reached in some places, and I'm here to tell you that they're wrong. I'm here to tell you that Green Bay know what they're doing as a franchise, even if it is sometimes pissing off Aaron Rodgers, and they've done very, very well, and I hate saying that, but I can't escape the truth. Quay Walker at 22, many thought was a reach, and maybe it was. Consensus board had him at 51. Having said that, he was a sleeper candidate. We all said we really liked him to go in the first round. Several people had been kind of putting him in their first round projections very, very late on in the day, so perhaps it wasn't surprising that he went in the first round. 22, a little high, but what they're getting is a really, really good linebacker in the mold of players they already have. He's going to slot into their system really well. Devontae Wyatt, best interior defensive lineman in the draft, better than Jordan Davis. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Watch the tape. Christian Watson at 34, it's a boom or bust pick. I understand that. But if anyone can make a pick look good at wide receiver, it's Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And, Christian Watson, 10 RAS score, tall, fast, needs to develop some hands. His catching is very bad. So if you can sort that out, that's great. They got offensive line depth through Sean Ryan and Zach Tom and Rashid Walker. I mean, these guys are all going to be really productive for Green Bay, and you're going to hate it. But so Rashid Walker is my favourite pick at 249. He was 94th on the consensus board, and the Penn State tackle, he gave Aiden Hutchinson problems in the Penn State-Michigan game. If you haven't seen it, watch it back. Hutchinson gets 3 sacks, but they're effort sacks. They're not sacks that he kind of got through quality of his play, just his relentless motor keeping on going. But it was his worst game of 2021, Hutchinson, going up against Rashid Walker, who's the new Green Bay tackle. So that's really good. Kingsley Enagbare, 89th on the consensus board, picked 179. That can only be a good thing. All in all, this Green Bay team got better. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So I'm keeping guarded about how we might do against them this season. Finishing off the NFC North with the Minnesota Vikings, Lewis Cine at 32, Andrew Booth Jr. at 42, Ed Ingram at 59, Brian Asamoah at 66, Caleb Evans at 118, Azizi Otomueo at 165, Ty Chandler at 169, Vidarian Lowe at 184, Jalen Naylor at 191, and Nick Muse at 227. This is another draft that's not dissimilar to Chicago's. So it's a team that's in purgatory. It can't ever break its duck in terms of being a really good team and making a playoff run. It can't really ever be bad enough to kind of go bottom 5 team and have a top 5 pick. It just is good but not great. Lewis Cine is improving that team. That safety room looks really good now. Andrew Booth Jr. fell because of massive injury concerns. Is he going to play to the level that people think he can? Because he's a boom or bust pick. He could be really good, but he may not ever see the field. Ed Ingram, the guard, gives some much-needed offensive line depth, but is he a top-tier player? That remains to be seen. Brian Asamoah, I'm a fan of his. Short linebacker who's very explosive. I know he was high on the PFF board, but it was a reach by on the consensus board. Buffed Up says, "Are you in Luke's Discord?" I am. My name's Matthew Turner on there. You can find me there. What else do we have? A few other good picks. I know that Ant yesterday said he really loved the Caleb Evans pick, thinks actually he might be more productive than Andrew Booth. But having a look at all of these picks, is there anyone, apart from Cine, that can say with confidence they will be affecting how good Minnesota are next year? Asamoah, linebacker's hard to translate. That's one of the reasons why they're not a very high value position, because not a lot of people actually do it very well. So remains to be seen for him. Booth may not see the field. Ed Ingram is fine. Cine's the only one. Otherwise, Minnesota are getting worse again. Like, this is not a team to be feared this season. I don't think so. That's the NFC North. So we've talked about the Detroit draft in previous episodes. Please do go back and have a look at that if you're so inclined. So let's just have a look around the NFL at some other draft classes that we like or don't like. I came away really liking Philadelphia's draft. Obviously, Detroit are facing them week 1. Jordan Davis at 13, Cameron Jurgens at 51, Nakobe Dean at 83, Kyron Johnson at 181, and Grant Calcaterra at 198. So they've taken risks. 2 picks there with massive injury concerns. Nakobe Dean at 83 was obviously thought to be a first-round pick. Consensus board had him at 25. Fell to 83 because he has several bad injury concerns. So let's see what happens there. It might be that he's more of a 2023 thing. We'll find out. And Grant Calcaterra, the tight end at 198, he had 2 really bad concussions at college, and he actually retired and then ended up coming back. So he's already kind of had retirement in his head. So we'll see what happens with that. But Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, I think are going to be really, really solid picks. And I gotta like the upside of Dean, even though he's an oft-injured player, with concerns. The guy's going to be super productive, especially in that Philadelphia defense. One of the hits on Dean was that with that Georgia line, all he's doing is going in and hitting people. Well, you've got Jordan Davis in this line, so what are you going to do? Like, you've transplanted him into a team that's really going to do well. The Giants, let's go and look at them. We're facing them week. Oh, I've got it on my board in front of me here. We're facing the Giants week 11, November 20th at 1 p.m. Picked Thibodeau and Evan Neal at 5 and 7. Then decided they were going to reach on most picks after that, but picked up some recognisable names. Wandale Robinson at 43. I don't like that. I think he's going to be a very limited receiver in the mold of people they already have. So I think there's a lot of redundancy there. But otherwise, Azudu I like at 67, massively overdrafted again, but the guard's really, really interesting. Cordell Flott, I like him as a safety, again, overdrafted, but building depth. Daniel Ballinger was one of the darlings of this podcast. We really, really liked him as someone who can do it well as both a blocking and receiving tight end. Micah McFadden was someone I always used to really enjoy drafting later on. He got overdrafted too, but the inside linebacker from Indiana, very athletic. DJ Davidson, the defensive tackle, brings some much needed depth. I know that as an Arizona State player that Ryan knows him very well. Darian Beavers, I know a lot of people like drafting him too, the inside linebacker from Cincinnati. So that's overall a pretty good class for the Giants. What else have we got of interest? I mean, we could talk about the Pats up here. We're playing New York again, so we're playing the Jets, aren't we? So let's talk about them. Week 15. Amar Gardner at 4 and Garrett Wilson at 10, then traded up for Jermaine Johnson at 26 and got Breece Hall, the running back, at 36, then Ruckert at 101, Max Mitchell at 111, and Michael Clements finishing them off at 117, so finishing off very early on day 3. But that's the best day 1 of any class, I think. Amar Gardner, the cornerback, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver, and Jermaine Johnson, the edge player. I mean, all 3 could have been top 10 picks. Jermaine Johnson was rumoured to go to the Jets at 4, going into the draft. Some people thought he might go to the Giants at 5. There was some legitimate talk of him going top 10. So they've done exceptionally well. People are sleeping on Breece Hall. I know that running back is devalued. At 36, slightly overdrafted still as a running back, but he's going to be very, very productive. Have we got anyone else I want to pick out? We'll talk about Washington because they're week 2. I can't remember how they did, but I'll have a look. Washington. Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver, at 16. Fedarian Mathis at 47. Brian Robinson Jr. at 98. Percy Butler at 113. Sam Howell at 144. Cole Turner 149. Chris Paul 230. And Christian Holmes 240. My favourite pick by far, Sam Howell. I had him as a round 2 guy, I think, probably late round 2. Picking him up at 144 is a massive steal. I don't care that he's not a round 1 talent. You pick up a quarterback at a value position, you're doing something right. And quite honestly, with Carson Wentz, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Howell is starting at some point in the season, but not by week 2. I think we'll be facing Wentz, assuming he stays healthy. The rest of the picks, I really dislike this class. Like, Jahan Dotson, good receiver, complimentary player out of Penn State. Going to do some really good things on the outside, but picking him at 16 is a massive reach. He traded down from 11 to 16 and picks up a player just not worth it. That not good process at all. Fedarian Mathis, defensive tackle from Alabama, can't do it against the run. He can do it against the pass, but I know Washington have a good defensive line, but there's redundancy then, therefore. There's going to be rotating players in and out. I don't think he's going to see the field all too much. The rest of the players are a bit meh to me, but there we go. Right, there's a little flavour from the draft classes around the league, some of the teams that we're going to be facing. I hope you enjoyed this little mini pod. I talked about the news, the UDFAs, the NFC North drafts, and a few around the NFL drafts. Please do let us know, get in touch with us about what you thought with this mini podcast, just to see whether you think it's a bit more accessible, whether you think it's too brief. Any comments are welcome. Please do get in touch. Don't forget our socials, Royal the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the Facebook group for Worldwide Fans, Detroit Lions Fans, UK One Pride Worldwide. We've got breakdowns of all of our draft picks either on or coming on the website very, very shortly. ROTLLionsUK.com. My Aidan Hutchinson article will go live tonight. We've got Kirby Joseph, amongst others, already up, so do go and have a look. I will be back later this evening, probably at about 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. UK time. I'm going to spend 30 minutes getting hopium out of my system. It needs to happen. I'm feeling too good about what's going to happen this year, and I just need to tell you all about it so I don't ruin our main podcast with all of that dribble. If you have been listening to this live, really appreciate you guys. If you are listening on the audio pod as well, thank you very much. I'll see you later on tonight, but for now, let's go Lions, one pride.